Every once in a while, something happens in American business that shakes things up a bit. A few paradigms are shifted. Interviews are given. Articles are written. And although we may make some slight changes in how we do business, it's more of a ripple than a wave. Then, every couple of decades, something happens in American business that does more than make a ripple. It changes an entire industry. Ivory towers crumble. Where there was darkness, there's now light. What was once a completely accepted way of thinking is literally and totally upended. The interesting thing is that all of this force is set into motion by a small band of people with nothing more than a passionate vision and a cause. As a result, the largest industry in the world is forever changed in a way that reverberates through all of American business. These waves are not felt just tomorrow or next week, but they continue to be felt decades into the future. And believe it or not, it all started right here, with a high school football coach and his dreams for righting a wrong and helping the American family. I'm Alexander Berardi, author of Never Offer Your Comb to a Bald Man, and somewhat of a rebel in business myself. I was honored to get the opportunity to sit down with Art Williams and discuss his new book, Coach, the A.L. Williams Story, and talk about some of the stories between the pages and what this project and the memories around it mean to a man who has coached so many men and women on how to truly do it.
Art, what's the primary difference between winners and losers? The winners do it, they do it, and do it, and do it, and do it, until the job gets done. And then they talk about how great it is to finally have achieved something unique, and how glad they are that they didn't quit like everybody else, and how wonderful it is to finally be somebody they're proud of and make a difference with their life.
You got my attention now. Tell me a little bit about some of those struggles, about some of those war stories.
Well, you know, Sandy, it's, you know, I was an old football coach. You know, all my life, all I wanted to be was a football coach. My daddy was a coach, and my only hero in life was my high school football coach, Coach Taylor. In fact, I dedicated the book to him. And I felt like it was important in the book that we start back in Cairo, Georgia, you know, where I grew up, because that's where my whole belief system was built. You know, my moral values were founded there.
Art, how did you get through the tough times? I think everybody listening to this has their back up against the wall, and it sounds almost trite to say you just got to keep plugging away, but that is what you have to do. But there's something else, isn't there?
Well, I think Sandy, you've built a successful company, so you know. It really is. We had no alternative, you know. And most people fail because they run out of time. You know, like you know, winning in business is like a 10-year game or a 20-year game, and most people keep changing in their lives, and all of a sudden they're 60 years old or 70 years old, and they don't have another 10 years or 20 years, and. So we were a bunch of people that wanted to be somebody. We wanted to make a difference with our lives. You know, we wanted to do something important for our families.
When did you start first getting noticed by Goliath? When did the giant look at you and say, what is this little fleck trying to do?
You know, it's real interesting. It happened back when I was part-time in Columbus, Georgia. I started replacing all these trash value policies, you know. And I got a call from the Georgia Insurance Department, and they said, you got to report up here on this certain date at this certain time. And it's about an hour drive from Columbus to Atlanta. And so, you know, I came to Atlanta, and the Deputy Commissioner, Richard Kane, who later came to work with A.L. Williams, by the way, he, you know, there was a regulation on the books that if you replace a cash value policy with term insurance, that's called twisting, and you lose your license.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a regulation on the books. And so he had a letter from an agent in Columbus that I'd replaced his policy. And so he said, Mr. Williams, I have a letter here that you replaced this whole life policy with this term policy. What have you got to say about that? And I said, well, I say that's right. And it shocked him because, you know, he'd never heard it, because, I mean, he'd never heard anybody admit to something like that, you know.
98% of the people, and we agree on that number. I've done 20 years worth of research on that number, and oddly enough, it doesn't change from country to country. I thought it was just an American thing. Yeah. But that 2%, the difference between that, the 98% seems to chase money like the tail of a runaway dog. Right. And when you do that, you're going to be broke all your life.
Exactly right.
But if you're doing it for a different reason, like you did, and if you look in history of all the people, like you said, who have changed the course of civilization, you included, it's been because they've done it for something else without any regard for the money. Then the money shows up.
Yes, exactly right, Sandy. And one thing that I always emphasized in A.O. Williams is, you know, the money comes after you do something good for people, you know. In fact, we used to have, you know, when I used to be the only person that recruited in A.O. Williams. I recruited everybody in A.O. Williams for a period of time. And buddy, when I recruited you in the business, you were a crusader. I mean, we got a mat on together like you can't believe. You know, we were fixing to go bury somebody's butt, you know. I learned how to get after those folks in the wrong colored jerseys coaching, and I brought that competitive spirit, you know, into the company. And I believe the reason I succeeded in this business is because in that 4-month period of time when I was getting my license, nobody ever sat down with me early on and told me how much money you made. And so I came in here to be a crusader. I came in here to correct an injustice, you know. My priorities really, my intentions were honorable and right, you know. And then I found out that that's where all the great fortunes are made. That's where all the great companies are built. You know, you don't do it just for money. If you do it for money, you can't survive. You can't put up with all the crap.
The minute you hit that first obstacle, you're going to give up.
Absolutely. It has to be more than that.
Right.
And so I was so passionate about that because I knew what it had done in my life, that everybody I recruited, I made sure they got the religion on the front end. And said, let me tell you something, if you're here for the money, I ain't no sin making a lot of money. You know, I hope you can make a ton of it, okay? But I want you to understand, rule number one is you got to believe with everything that's in you in the goodness and the rightness of what we're all about.